Hello everyone from the West Coast in San Diego, California to today's workshop, or to everyone joining today's workshop from across the nation all the way to the East Coast. This workshop is on how to register computers. This workshop will focus on preparing computers to deliver tests using CASAS e-tests online. This is one of 23 complementary CASAS Online implementation workshops. You are not expected to attend all 23 workshops as indicated by the Citrix online system. This is a training room set up to conduct all 23 workshops. We highly recommend attending as many as possible to learn about best practices, ask questions, and to become confident in using the online system. Online help documentation is available on our website under Training and Support, E-Tests Help Documentation, and TOPS Pro Enterprise Help Documentation. You will want to be sure and bookmark these as your electronic go-to resources, particularly the CASAS e-test online guide, which provides the information covered in these workshops. Today's workshop will cover, we'll cover sections 2, Getting Started, and section 3.1, Registering Computers. I see some information or some questions posed in the chat box, so let me divert to address those questions. Yes, is those of you who are realizing that only voice over IP is enabled for these workshops. If you, ideally, if you have headphones with a microphone, that's the ideal to project your voices into the meeting room as well as listen to this workshop. You can also listen through your computer's speakers, and if your computer is not equipped with a microphone, then you will need to use the chat box to post any questions. Okay, and I encourage everyone to ask questions throughout the entire workshop. I'm not the type of trainer that asks you to hold your questions until the end. I see your questions not as interruptions, but I see them as opportunities to bring clarification to the information that I may be sharing at the time on the screen, or to address any other questions that you may have. I do ask, though, that the questions that you do pose to determine whether or not those questions will be of benefit to a national audience. If your questions may tend to be more agency or local agency specific to your local programs, then I would encourage you to use my contact information and send an email to give me the opportunity to address your question in a more private manner there. Okay. Let's see. So, Elaine, does that answer your question? You did say you're good to go, just can't speak. Okay, wonderful, great. And Jennifer, your hand is still raised in your meeting control panel. Did you have any questions, Jennifer, before we move forward? Okay, no problem. You can lower your hand if you, there you go. Okay, you found it. Okay, everyone's doing fabulous in managing your participation in this meeting, so thank you very much. Okay, so let me point out here also that before we get started, I want to be sure and point out where you will find access to CASAS eTest online as well as TOPS Pro Enterprise Online. The main domain name address is, let's see, let me highlight this here. I'll just highlight it instead here is https etestsonline.org, and test is plural. This is the main domain name for accessing both online applications, CASAS eTest, as well as the data management application known as TOPS Pro Enterprise Online. This address is commonly referred to as the address to the production server. In other words, this is where you will be producing live data. For today's workshop, we will be using the simulation server. This is available to anyone wanting to experiment and explore our online system without risk of compromising live data. You will find information on how to access the simulation server on our website under eTest's Help Documentation, Getting Started. And there is a link here to a document titled Simulation Server. Folks, the simulation server is a fictional database known as Rolling Hills Adult School. So please do not be concerned about the data that you see. It is purely fictional, so there are no personally identifiable there is no personally identifiable information contained in that database. This database refreshes nightly so that you have the assurance of using are being presented with a fresh, clean database on a daily basis from which to work in. Okay. So any questions, folks, about the information that I have shared so far? All right. Now, if you have already acquired a copy of the CASAS eTest Online Guide, as I mentioned earlier, we will be sharing information, sections of information from Section 2, and also Registering Computers Section 3.1. I'm going to go directly to Section 3.1 for just a moment, and let me go ahead and increase this for your viewing ease here. To emphasize that registering computers as testing stations that are authorized by you, your local staff, to deliver CASAS web-based tests is a one-time task per machine. Only registered testing stations are recognized by the online system. And computers, any computer or machine for that matter, computers or machines meaning a desktop computer, a laptop, a tablet, any type of machine will remain registered until such a point in time in the future that you decide to no longer use the machine for testing, at which time that machine should be unregistered from your online database. Now, each computer requires 2 certified individuals to register the machines. They can either be 2 certified coordinators, 2 certified proctors at the direction of a certified coordinator, or one of each, a certified coordinator and a certified proctor. The reason for this is to the first person initiates registration on the machine. The second person validates registration of each machine as authorized by your agency to deliver a CASAS web-based assessment. This registering stations is performed at each machine through station management. Machines can also be unregistered through station management as well as through the CASAS eTest Online app, Management Console. Okay. Let me briefly return to the table of contents to pop over to Section 2 here. No additional hardware or software is needed on your machines other than internet connection and computers with a Microsoft operating system. We get asked numerous times about using CASAS eTest Online on tablets or notepads, and the question that we always ask you is, does that machine have a Windows operating system. A very common notepad is an iPad from Apple, and Apple has its own operating system. So to answer questions about using CASAS eTest Online on an iPad, the answer unfortunately would be no, because Apple has its own operating system. What comes with the Microsoft Windows operating system are what we call free plugins. .NET Framework 4.5 to run TOPS Pro Enterprise Online, and Silverlight 5 to run CASAS eTest Online. Silverlight is a plugin that is powered by the .NET Framework and is compatible with multiple browsers and operating systems, and that is what creates the interactive user interface for web-based applications. Now, the online system runs in Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, and Google Chrome web browsers. We maintain a secure connection as well as a secure browser environment. Testing computers must meet the minimum system requirements as indicated in this table. Now, we get asked from time to time about what gets installed on a machine. Essentially, nothing gets installed on a local machine that is registered to deliver a CASAS web-based assessment. So the machine is not consuming any unnecessary resources. All that is required is the ability to run what we call an executable file. That runs locally, so you're under a local login credentials on your network or individual machines. That user must be allowed, or it must be permissible for them to run this executable file. What that does is it initiates contact with the online hosted server to initiate and complete the station registration process. The test, that executable file, once a station is confirmed as authorized to deliver a CASAS web-based test, then at that point the executable file then downloads into the temporary memory on the registered testing stations. It downloads the test delivery system, and that includes the secure browser application, which locks during test administration. This prevents the test taker from visiting other websites, because this is a web browser application, or delivered through a web browser. So the test taker is locked into that administration. They also cannot access any applications running on the machine. In fact, we recommend to close all running applications so that there is no interference with that secure browser. The secure browser will not lock if there appears to be a threat to the test security of that test administration. And from time to time, we've been notified by network administrators that indicate to us a specific application that must be allowed to continue running in the background during test administration. This is perfectly acceptable. We just need to identify the application, investigate that, and add it to our whitelist of acceptable applications allowed to run in the background. So I know that gets a little bit technical, and I'm sorry that that may put some of you on edge, but please rest assured that the application is very user-friendly, a very smooth running application, very efficient process to implement. It's just that there may be these types of snags that may occur along the way, and we're right here ready to work with you. We have a fabulous technology support team with several members ready to assist you. Okay. Let's see. Now that secure browser application that is downloaded with the test delivery system so that testing can take place, when testing ends, that delivery system is completely removed from the temporary memory on any local machine. So the web browser and the machine essentially return to normal function. Okay. Now, for uninterrupted test administration, it is vitally important that all of your machine clocks are synchronized with an internet time server. If your machines are not synchronized, the proctor, at the time the proctor is initiating test administration on any registered machine, on the opening page, they will receive a warning indicating that there is a time difference. And please don't be mistaken thinking that 30 seconds or a minute is no big deal. It is, folks, when you implement the short computer adaptive locator to determine an appropriate level pretest. That locator, I don't want to get too sidetracked here, but it is very short, and students need as much time as needed. The standard administration of a locator is 15 minutes. And trust me, they need all that time for the locator to accurately determine, for the greatest possibility of determining, or greatest accuracy, I should say, in determining an appropriate level pretest. There you go. So there is a document titled Clock Synchronization. This is a simple document that steps you through the process to make sure that your machine clocks are synchronized. If your machines are part of a network, then you will more likely need to notify your network administrator if you come across any of those types of issues. Okay. Also, clock synchronization is especially important if your state participates in daylight saving time, okay, because if not, or your computer clocks are not set to automatically adjust if your state participates in daylight saving time, you will be completely off an hour one way or the other. Okay, so that will definitely have a negative impact. Now, just the last bit of information I want to cover in this section is verifying your facility, and that is done. Those of you who participated in the implementation overview, I touched on this briefly. This is one of 3 complementary online self-paced training modules titled Online Site Agreement, and this module only needs to be completed by one individual representing your agency to identify, number 1, your agency, and number 2, any site locations at which you plan to administer CASAS web-based assessments. That's the information that we need to structure your online database in the online system. And with that, then, your site locations, that gives the site locations the information for your site locations to set them up so that your online database is prepared for you to move forward and select the appropriate sites at which you are registering testing stations. Now let's see, let me return to table of contents for a moment and go directly to back to this registering computers. Essentially now we're going to, I'm going to demonstrate live the process on how to register a machine as a testing station. So there is a step-by-step tutorial available to you in the CASAS eTest Online Guide beginning on page 18. Takes you in step-by-step, very detailed steps here. So we'll go ahead and transition into that now. I'm going to minimize, well, actually not minimize my web browser. I'm going to go to the simulation server here. So folks, based on the information that I've provided to you that is available to you to reference in the CASAS eTest Online Guide, do you have any questions at this point? Oh, okay. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move into the demonstration. The first step is to go to the main domain name, and here again I'm using the simulation server. Feel free to experiment using the simulation server as well. The first step is to, well, not only go to the main landing page, but the second step then is to click register this computer. You will have a message indicating do you want to run or save the CASAS tests.exe executable file. If you're, depending on the setup of your web browser, Mozilla Firefox tends to have you save the file in your downloads, and if that's the case, you'll have to retrieve it from your downloads. I'm not a Google web browser user, so I'm not sure how Google handles this message. If you are an Internet Explorer user, generally you can run directly from Internet Explorer. So I'm going to click the Run, and now you will see the executable file quickly ran, made connection with the CASAS hosted server. All of you will have your own dedicated agency ID, and we will be providing that to you and notifying you when your online database is set up. Let's see, and Gladys, you said, would you please repeat how to get to the simulation server? Oh yes, of course. Let me go back to the web browser here. And on our website, under the eTest online, our eTest help documentation, you can get to that from training and support, ET help documentation for eTest help documentation, getting started. This is where most of you are at this point in getting started. We have quite a lot of documents listed here in this table, and this is where you'll find the simulation server document. This takes you step by step on how to connect. Now I do have to say that I am updating this document. I've added additional login, but for the most part the document is accurate enough to go ahead and use now. Okay, and then there are also additional links here to assist you through the getting started phase. Okay, and actually what I'm going to do is simply paste this URL in the chat box so you have it immediately there. Okay, all right, so I clicked register this computer. You enter your agency ID, you enter your user credentials, and these are fictional credentials. Click Login. This is the first person initiating registration on a machine. This is where once you submit your online site agreement and we set up and structure your agency, your online database, then that's what produces this drop-down menu to select where you are registering those machines. Okay, so a machine exists at a dedicated site. Now folks, if you are implementing a mobile lab to where you have laptops that you want to register and use those to travel to various site locations, you can do that. Simply, I would say, identify one site as your main site for your agency and then register the machines under one main site, even though those laptops may be traveling to all of these other sites. Okay? The idea here is that these machines physically reside at a physical site. So you have the site, the lab name. This would be the classroom or computer lab at which the machine physically resides. And then the station name would be the position, the name and position of that machine within the lab. So please make this very descriptive because proctors will be viewing a list of available registered testing stations when they are actively testing students. So they need to be able to see on a list of stations the name of a station and to be able to look out into the lab or the classroom and know exactly where that computer is. And the reason I emphasize that to that point is that some of you may ask your IT department staff members to register computers for you, and that's perfectly acceptable, and we will work with an IT staff member to give them the ability to register stations for you. However, IT staff members tend to put rather encrypted type of station names, and so just kindly ask them to identify the stations in a user-friendly fashion. Okay. Now notice the status is not registered. This information here is the identifying information that will be recorded on the CASAS hosted server. So the first person then clicks register, and now another person must confirm this registration. Click OK. Now, the management console here, or the station management login screen, remembers the last login users, and this is can confuse new users slightly, because the same person who just initiated registration will sometimes tend to confirm that registration by logging in again, and you will receive an error if you attempt to do that. What this is designed to do is for the second person to come along, and I'll just say this is Proctor 33, for example. The second person needs to enter their username and their password. Click Login. And notice the red lettering here. To finish registration of this computer, just click register. The second person does not need and should not edit this lab information, and does not need and should not edit the station name. All they need to do is click register. So the registration status is pending, and I'm going to click register here. And notice now the station is fully registered. As soon as I click OK, this is now considered a fully registered station ready for testing. However, testing will not occur until the proctor starts the testing session. Okay, and so this is a test security safeguard here, because this screen that you are looking at right now, it represents a screen that is being prepared, or a computer that's being prepared for test administration. So no matter how many times, if a student happens to be seated at the computer and clicks refresh, 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 nothing will happen. That student cannot progress to take a test, especially in a non-proctored environment. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do in just the very few minutes that we have remaining here is go to the main web page. We went through this process, register this computer, and now I'm going to quickly sign in to the application management with my coordinator credentials, just to reference the testing stations list. So for your confirmation and assurance that the machine that we just registered is identified here at the North Campus in the Assessment Center, and this happens to be station number 1. The status of this station is fully registered. Here is confirmation of the MAC address. Any station that is not pre-assigned to a testing session or currently active in a testing session can be unregistered from this is called the Management Console, the CASAS Online Management Console. And so you can register it from the convenience of the application without having to return directly to the machine itself. Okay? We are going to cover TOPS Pro Enterprise a little bit later as far as the login, but I just wanted to quickly cross-reference that in the TOPS Pro Enterprise application, under the Organization menu, we also have a testing stations list. And here again, this is another area in the shared database, just a different user interface, different application that also provides to you confirmation of all your registered stations. This is at Site ID 1 for North Campus, the station name, lab, MAC address, and the status of that machine. So this is another good reference point. If machines are still in a pending status, I'll wrap it up here and just say that if one person has some time available to go through, say, all the stations in a lab or a classroom to initiate registration, but say the second person who needs to come along and validate the registration, let's say they're not available on the same day and time, they can certainly complete the registration process on a different day and time. It does not, those two individuals do not need to be present at the same time registering the machine. So if one person does that and it waits for that second registration, then the status will show pending. So not only in Enterprise, but also on the simulation server, the status will show pending. Okay, and with that, folks, that ends today's workshop on registering computers. The workshop following this is on creating sessions, and so this will will build upon what we've just done in the application to provide you more detailed information on how sessions are created to begin test administration. So I invite all of you to take a short break and return to this meeting room. I'm going to momentarily stop broadcasting this meeting room so that the recording will stop, and then we'll start back up in just less than 30 minutes here. Okay, but are there any questions before we end today's workshop on registering computers? All right. If you think of any questions afterwards, don't hesitate to contact me. I'll enter my email in the chat box, dmontgomery@casas.org. Please feel free to email me if you have any questions about registering computers. All right. Thank you so much, folks, for your attendance and participation, and I'll see you back in about 30 minutes.